The Chicago Bears 2026 schedule has everything in it, right? A road opener, games against both the teams that were in the Super Bowl last season, a Christmas Day matchup against the Green Bay Packers, an NFC North finish and stretch to end the season that could decide the NFC North, and Caleb Williams is going to be matched up with some of the best quarterbacks in the league. And this is going to be a season where if Caleb Williams takes the steps that we've talked about this offseason, people are not going to be able to help but put him in the conversation with elite quarterbacks. We'll talk about all that, plus an elite stat from Luke the Burden that shows that he could be on his way to becoming an absolute superstar. We'll talk about all these things plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And yeah, man, hey, the Chicago Bears 2026 schedule has a lot going on. I think the more and more time you kind of get to sit with it and look over the schedule, the more that you realize that this is the Bears going into not only with the toughest schedule per opponent win percentage based off last season in the league, but just it's going to be a lot of the narratives around the Chicago Bears. They're all going to be solved in this one. And, you know, it's up to the Bears to really step up to the challenge in this one. This is what we dreamt of, right? Like the Chicago Bears are being treated with how they've been scheduled as a premier team in the NFL. They got to go out there now and show and prove that they're going to live up to that, right? And one of the first things that stands out about the Chicago Bears schedule is that the Bears open up the season on the road for the first time in 5 years. When we take on the Carolina Panthers in week 1 on the road, this is the first road game that we've had since 2021, which then we took on the Los Angeles Rams that went on to go and win the Super Bowl that year, right? So that's one of the first things that stand out. You are starting off your season out on the road. Now, for what it's worth, the Chicago Bears also do not have a bunch of they have a lot of rest time between it, right? So the Bears do have a lot of rest on the schedule. One of the things that was pointed out, Warren Sapp, he calculated the NFL net rest for each team, and the Bears have 15 extra days of rest versus their opponents over the course of time with that one. So even though the Bears have this brutal schedule, they are going to have rest involved into that, more so than a lot of their opponents. Now, I think that this all comes with it. It's one of those things where, yeah, there's a stat to say that they have the most rest, but then again, the difficulty of opponent matters into that one. The short days matter into that one as well. But hey, for what it's worth, the Bears also have they have more rest than their opponents more times than not, right? Of course, something else that stands out is that the Bears face both teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, in the Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, both these teams are shaped up to be really good teams, even though the Patriots and Mike Vrabel got their own thing going on, you know, at the start of the season to deal with. But the Bears are facing both teams in that time period. And this is the first time this has happened since 2009 against the Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals. So I think when you look at that one, right, they're taking them on in back-to-back weeks on top of that. So this is going to be what a lot of people look at as measuring sticks, even though each season is its own kind of definable thing and its own storylines. But the Bears face off of both teams that were in the Super Bowl last year, and let's see what their record can be up against that part in time. Also, the Christmas Day game against the Green Bay Packers. I can't tell you enough how much I love this, right? Like the Bears versus Packers is starting to hopefully mean something again, right? And the Bears are hopefully going to prove that with the way that they pair up this season. We got to hope with that one, right? Like the Packers and Bears are so rare to face off each other on Christmas that it's ridiculous. We squared off twice before, in 2005 and 2011. That's the last team. Each team won once in that time. So, you know, now we're looking at, hey, who could come away with the Christmas schedule? Because who knows when's the next time the Packers and the Bears are going to be facing each other on Christmas. But that is another marquee game for the Chicago Bears, and it's Bears versus Packers. Jordan Love against Caleb Williams. Like, this is all going to be very fun to watch and talk about, right? And then you got to look at that ending stretch by the Chicago Bears. Like, that ending stretch by the Bears schedule is going to be brutal. And it really could mean a lot for how the Chicago Bears, you know, if they can win the North and where they are in the NFC. From that Christmas Day game against the Green Bay Packers We go on to then face Detroit on January 3rd, and then Minnesota to finish the season in Week 18. Those are our last 3 games of the season, all against NFC North opponents, and that is going to be a very fun set of matchups to watch, because you could completely see those matchups determining who wins and who comes out of the NFC North as the division winner. And I think that's going to be a big factor in the Bears, what they try to do in the postseason, setting the tone in the division as well. That's going to be great. That is a historic run there for the Chicago Bears to face each of our division rivals over the final 3 weeks of the year. That's the first time since 1983, according to Larry Mayer, that's happened, right? It's also the first time since 1964 where the Bears will play Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota in 3 consecutive games as well. So, listen, like I said, the NFC, with the way they made the schedule, they know what the NFC North means. They know what the Chicago Bears can be. This is going to be fun. The Bears also only play 11 of their 17 games on Sundays, right? So take that for what you will, right? With the Bears having, Thursday games, Thanksgiving games, Christmas Day games, all that type of stuff that's going on here. Like, this is it could throw off some players in regards to that. Now, I know we talked about how the Bears have the rest in regards to some of these days, but the number of the fact that only 11 games, so that's 6 games that aren't on Sundays, and between Monday night games, Thursday night games, the balance of that is going to be fun and interesting to watch how the Bears prepare and come out of those short weeks. Then, of course, the other holiday matchup that we have is against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, right? And it seems like this is starting to become a tradition for the Chicago Bears, right? This is the 6th time in 12 years and 3rd time in the last 5 the Chicago Bears are going to be facing off against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. We're 3-2 against the Lions since 2014. So there you go on that one. And we'll see what happens in regards to that. The Lions are also trying to make their mark and notice in the division after what was a disappointing season for them last year. The Detroit Lions aren't leaving anything on the table. So they're trying to see what happens in regards to that one for this Bears team as well. So this is a very interesting schedule for the Bears, and one that I don't think you can really pass up, right? And that finish in the NFC North could decide everything for them in the NFC North, and you just can't overlook that. But also on the schedule, I would say this as well. Like Caleb Williams, and you look at the number of quarterbacks that he faces in this one, right? Like, let's look at it. Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills, a former MVP, on a team that's going to be a Super Bowl contender every single year with those Buffalo Bills, right? Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the entirety of the league. So, of course, having him, and now with DJ Moore also going to be his receiver, we square off against them in Week 15. That is a huge matchup and a measuring stick game for Caleb Williams. See how he measures up against an elite, truly elite quarterback in this league. Then number 2, Jalen Hurts, right? You look when we got that win last year over the Philadelphia Eagles, and it did feel very much so like that was kind of the Bears making their notice that, hey, we are not here to be played with. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are going to be looking for revenge, right? They have one of the best and most dynamic offenses in the entirety of the NFL as well, so that's already going to be a test for our defense. But how he comes out in that one is going to be important. He also Jared Goff in NFC North quarterback as well, and you can't overlook this one, right? The Detroit Lions swept the Chicago Bears last year, winning both of our matchups against them. So even though that we won the division and came out with a better record, they have the bragging rights. And Ben Johnson is not, as a head coach, been able to beat his former team yet. And let's see if he can get that done when it comes down to that part, right? Week 2, last season, Jared Goff had his absolute way with the Chicago Bears. 334 yards, 5 touchdowns. And that was one of his best career performances against the Chicago Bears. Let's not let that happen in our 2 matchups this year, right? Then you also have Sam Darnold with the Seahawks. And this is a Super Bowl champion. Sam Darnold, you look at, the success that they had last year, the weight that's going to be on his shoulders as well. And then you look at how many changes the Seattle Seahawks offense had this offseason. There's going to be a time where we can hopefully catch them, right? Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III, he left to go to Kansas City in free agency. They lost Charbonnet as well to a torn ACL in the playoffs. So Sam Darnold is going to have a big game, and hopefully the Bears are going to be able to put some pressure. Drake May. A Super Bowl loss, Drake May last year, and people, for what it's worth, measure him and Caleb Williams against each other. That's going to be there. That's always going to happen. And we'll see, right? Like where this team is right now in the Patriots, they're still going to be a really solid football team. Drake May stepped up as the leader of that Patriots team, so that matchup against Caleb Williams is going to be a fun one to watch. Also, then you also have Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars. Now, say what you will about Trevor Lawrence. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he still is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's there, right? But I think also he lost some weapons this year. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars, you look at what they, losing, their running back when they lost him as well. Like, they have a lot on their plate when it comes down to it. And we'll see, right? Travis Hunter's going to need to see some time on that defensive side of the ball, but Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's going to be another big matchup for the Bears. Baker Mayfield, hey, I tell you what, like, Baker is one of my favorite quarterbacks because Baker Mayfield is just a tough son of a bitch. As a quarterback, he's just a tough son of a bitch, right? And so now he's coming into the season. That's going to be a big matchup for this team as well, right? You got Bryce Young, who, say what you will about Bryce Young and how his career started off, but hey, Bryce Young stepped up big time last year, right? Got to the Carolina Panthers to the playoffs for the first time since 2017. You look at the playmakers they now have on the Carolina Panthers team as well. And Bryce Young and Caleb Williams is going to be a fun matchup to watch also when it comes down to it because of the trade that went down. Then, of course, you have Jordan Love with the Packers. That's always going to be a matchup. That's always going to be something that looks in regard to the rivalry, the importance of the matchup with the Green Bay Packers, the fact that we face them on Christmas Day as well in one of those matchups. And so when you look at how Caleb Williams has performed against the Green Bay Packers as well, there's definitely going to be some pressure on Jordan Love and the Packers to perform in regards to that one. And we'll see, right? Like, and Jordan Love also was injured in their late regular season matchup. So, they're looking to come in and make that notice. And then you also got Kyler Murray, Tyler Shaw, Malik Williams, Geno Smith, and Michael Penix as the guys that Caleb Williams is going to face off against. Now, Geno had a fall off that was crazy to see last year. And Michael Penix, we don't exactly know what he's even going to be as a quarterback yet, but the Bears, out of their 14 quarterbacks that they're going to face this upcoming year, barring any injuries or anything like that, this is an opportunity for Caleb Williams to show out and really plant his flag in the fact that I am one of the most elite quarterbacks in this league. And we already know the things that Caleb Williams has to improve on. The accuracy, right, between the drops of his wide receivers, the missed throws by him, you fix up and you work on that. You maintain your turnover, your interception to touchdown ratio, all those type of things. But this is a big year for Caleb Williams, and he's coming into this season, I think, with a quarterback gauntlet. How he comes out of that is going to be hugely important for this team overall. So let's see what can get done. With that, though, a quarterback is only as good as their weapons, right? Like, let me not say that. That's not always true. It was just a segue. It sounded like a good segue that I came up with in my brain. But nonetheless, right, the quarterback's weapons are hugely important. And I think that's, thing that we have to look at as well. And there's a stat that came out that puts Luther Burden amongst some of the best, right, when it comes down to it. According to Ian Hartitz, right, with Fantasy Life, he pointed out an interesting stat with Luther Burden that compared him to rookies over the last decade. And Luther Burden had more yards per route run by a rookie wide receiver in the last 10 years. Luther Burden in his rookie year had 2.71 yards per route run. And over the last 10 years, A.J. Brown was number 2 at 2.68, Justin Jefferson at 2.66, Puka Nacua at 2.6, and then Jamar Chase at 2.5. So what does that say? That puts, when you look at that territory that it puts Luther Burden in, it puts him in not just good territory, but elite territory when it comes down to that. That is a really good spot for Luther Burden to be in. For many Bears fans, they look at Luther Burden and they have already put him above Rome Odunze. I think they're 1A, 1B when it comes down to it. But it is clear one thing is that Luther Burden has all the skills, all the traits of a top wide receiver in this league. And when you talk about moving on from DJ Moore, one of the things that I've talked a lot about on the show over the last few weeks is that who steps into that void of the consistency that DJ Moore had. He wasn't always the biggest guy with yards per game. He wasn't always the biggest guy with targets. He wasn't always the biggest guy with touchdowns. But it was just the consistency in which DJ Moore played with, in which he was available with. And whenever you called on this number, you knew that he had the chance to make a play no matter how many times you passed to him or did not pass to him over the course of that game. So now, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, these guys are all stepping in and hoping to be able to fill that role wholeheartedly for this. Now, I look at Colston Loveland with his route running and his consistency. I think that he's going to become, and already he became that last year, one of Caleb Williams' favorite weapons, but you're going to spread that out, right? You're going to need more than that. And I do think that we could see Colston Loveland become the number one receiver per targets when it comes down to by the end of the 2026 season. But you're going to see the ball spread around between Burden, between Odunze, between Colston Loveland, between Jahade Walker. You hope that Khalif Raymond's going to be able to get in there as well as Xavion Thomas, right? You're looking at all these guys. And weapons is the name of the game for Ben Johnson's offense. Not just, of course it spreads things out, but like how many different places and areas of the field that you can attack on any given play in any given set is one of the most important things for Ben Johnson's offense. And so, having a weapon like Luther Burden, who is an amazing route runner, who is somebody that once you get the ball in his hands, he absolutely, as a possession wide receiver, he's so difficult to take down. And everything that we continue to see, like all these stats are great, but it's the eye test as well, right? Like when you see Luther Burden on the field, you can almost automatically see how he impacts and changes the dynamic of a football game when he's on and healthy. And that's what you're going to need from Luther Burden this year. But like I said, I don't want to put it on any one person. That whole receiving core, receiving unit, all the weapons on this team, from the wide receivers to the tight ends to the running backs, are all going to have to be on point for the entirety of the season, and we got to find a way to keep those guys as healthy as possible. If this offense wants to make that step into truly being one of the elite offenses in the league, you're going to need every bit of that, every single down, every single play. You're going to need consistency from the way that these guys perform for you. And so Luther Burden is definitely one of the guys that are top of that. But Rome Odunze does not get a pass. Colston Loveland does not get a pass. Cleve Raymond does not get a pass. Jahadi Walker does not get a pass. Of course, the expectations from those second-tier guys are different than what you have at the top, but own your role. Play well in what your role. When your number's called upon, do what you need to do, because Ben Johnson's goal is to put you guys in the best position possible. Now, once he does that, it's up to them to take advantage and to pay off that position that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and Press Taylor and everybody puts them in. Let's hope that can happen this year for the Chicago Bears, because I'm really looking for this offense to take a major step forward. The defense also needs to take a major step forward, which leads us to our last topic of the day. It's two huge X factors for the Chicago Bears this year. And I would say this: the biggest overarching X factor is health. The Bears need better health, specifically in their secondary, to make the most out of how Dennis Allen schemes, right? And when you look at it, the Bears finished 27th last year in pass defense, when it came down to that, and that's not great, right? We were 22nd in pass defense, 27th overall last year, right? We allowed the 8th highest completion percentage rate in the league and 32 touchdown passes, which was the 5th most in the league, right? And so, of course, now you look at the new starting safeties, they're definitely going to play a role into that as well. But this season is really about, you have to lay it at the feet of Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. These guys both have to be healthy this year, right? In 2024, both Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon were among the top 15 graded cornerbacks in the league, right? That's it. They were top 20 in coverage grades at both possessions as well, and the run defensive grades were above 76, meaning that's how versatile they are. Now, last season, Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson played a combined 10 games, right? And that is, even in those games, they weren't fully healthy in regards to that. Lower body injuries to Kyler Gordon, the growing injury to Jalen Johnson. You need both these guys. When you look at what Kyler Gordon provides you at the nickel and in that slot, right? That is something that is so important for that. And with him out, it just wasn't the same, right? The coverage and everything was wildly different without Kyler Gordon being in there because of how important that nickel and slot position are to Dennis Allen's scheme. You also look at Jalen Johnson and his inability to stay healthy. Now, of course, we added Malik Muhammad. This is a player that I'm excited about to grow up to that as well. But also Jalen Johnson has to be better. If you get basically a fully healthy season from Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon, this defense already is going to take several steps forward with those guys alone. You add Dylan Thieneman, Kobe Bryant to this team, as well as the speed of Devin Bush in that linebacker room that we also added. And I think that you see the path of where this defense can improve at, right? That's why I get it that we didn't address the pass rush as much as Bears fans wanted to see us get done this offseason. But with health in those two spots specifically, as well as the upgrades that we did make, this Bears defense can be a lot better than what it was last year. Can it be elite? I have my questions in regards to that one, but I do know that we can be a drastically improved defense this year. We just got to show and prove that. We got to show up and prove that day in and day out, and we got to stay healthy. Health is one of the most important factors for this Bears team to take a step forward. Of course, Dennis Allen and his coaching staff have put the onus also on them in teaching this team and having them better prepared for the fundamentals, those type of things, and that's definitely going to show up in the stat sheet as well. But this Bears team needs to lock in and be ready to go. If you have a healthy Kyler Gordon and a healthy Jalen Johnson, paired with the other improvements that we have, I think this Bears team takes a huge step forward as a team, right? The secondary was a big reason why we never had the game plan and the isolation that we wanted to coming into that season. Now, with better health, and hopefully Jalen Johnson in these months off has had an opportunity to heal everything that's going on with him. Same thing with Kyler Gordon, because we need a point of attack. Terrell Smith, who missed the entirety of last year, Tyreek Stevenson, This is an opportunity for you to get back into a role that more so fits you, because now you got a young guy, Malik Muhammad, that's coming for that spot, right? So all those things now being here, the better competition, the better health, this secondary is still one of the most important parts of the backbone of what Dennis Allen's going to build this defense around, and it's up to them to stay healthy so that we can see the results of that this season, because we didn't get that last season from the Chicago Bears. Can we get it this year? That is the hope. That is the dream. That is what this whole thing is built around and planned upon. We just got to hope that we're going to be able to get it done. So, overall, I'll say this, just kind of recap the show. We got a hellacious schedule with a lot of different intricacies in that schedule. We're going to have some rest. We got a quarterback gauntlet that we're going to face, which also plays into how Caleb Williams, battles with those quarterbacks, but also how the defense guards those quarterbacks and, puts pressure on those guys. And then you have a young up-and-coming star in Luther Burden, and I'll say Colston Loveland as well, that could very well have breakout seasons this year for the Chicago Bears. So we're going to see. The schedule is not easy, but I don't want it to be easy because I want to know exactly where this team measure ups at, right? So I want to ask you guys this question. A, can this team be taken seriously going into 2026? Can Caleb Williams get into MVP considerations and conversations? Also, Ben Johnson, with the schedule that we have, if the Bears have another winning schedule, we are undoubtedly should be in the Coach of the Year conversation as well. And can the Chicago Bears defend that NFC North crown? All these things are some of the biggest storylines I'm looking for coming into the season, and we're going to see what we're going to happen. Drop your thoughts, as always, down in the comment section. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.